My name is Pierce. I'm a marketing specialist at Jenman African Safaris, and I'm here today to present our tailor-made webinar with a special focus on Zimbabwe. Sitting next to me here is Erica, and she's part of our sales team. She's a real, live, authentic Zimbabwean, so a perfect person to answer all your questions. Very briefly, what I'm going to run through there today is just give you a quick introduction to Jenman Safaris, run through a little bit of the pros or the advantages of organizing a tailor-made itinerary, and go through a little bit how we do that with a couple, and we'll look in more detail with a few examples from Zimbabwe, and we'll give you a quick introduction to what's happening in Zimbabwe at the moment and what the main attractions are. Okay, so without any further ado, Jenman Safaris, we are based down in Cape Town, so the main office is down in Cape Town. It's where all the admin, the sales, the marketing, etc. are all based down here. We've got operation centers in Maun, up at Vic Falls, in Arusha, and in Tana. So all the colored areas you see on the map are the areas that the country that we operate in. What makes us different? First of all, over 25 years of experience. And within that, we've got 12 years of tailor-made experience. So many of you will know we originally started as guided groups, so taking group safaris, and extended into tailor-made. So a lot of experience throughout Southern Africa, East Africa, and now Madagascar. Hopefully that stands us to good stead. We've got a dedicated agents portal, which is an awesome place for information, a great place for a great agents resource, I suppose. Hopefully, again, many of you will know it. If you don't, please contact us, ask us for your own login details, and we'll send them across to you. We've got some great consultants, and that's always critical when putting together a kind of a quality holiday. So Erica is a fine example of that, and hopefully you can pick her brains later. With great consultants comes product knowledge, which I think speaks for itself. Now, we do have ready-made packages to offer clients, and it kind of sounds a bit strange when you're talking about tailor-made and then you're talking about ready-made packages, but effectively these work really well as a starting point when talking with your clients. So you can put it to your client and say, listen, this is an example of the sort of thing we can do, and we can change it from there. So please have a look out for ready-made packages, find them in the brochure, but also on the portal. Great starting point. So speaking of the brochure, we've also got a yearly brochure in print, which if you don't have, let us know. We can send it out to you. And that has stacks of information. I'm sure it'll wow your clients and help convert them into bookings. We do communicate regularly, so you hopefully are already on our mailing list. We've got a dedicated support team, so 24-hour emergency phones, all that kind of thing, and people always on hand to sort out any problems that might come up. We offer fam trip opportunities. So if you'd like to travel, get to know a new country, some new areas, have a look out for our fam trips, and please come and join us. Always love having extra people coming along. And finally, the last thing I have on my list there is branded witty itineraries. So witty virtual itinerary, which is a great sales tool. It helps conversion, and we can brand them with your logos. Very quickly, the people who make the magic happen. Over on the left is Katja, so our CEO, and Garth, who's Garth Jenman, the guy who started Jenman Safaris and actually concentrated hugely on Zimbabwe at the start. So Zimbabwe is slightly the heart of Jenman Safaris in a certain way. On the right is the sales team, and I'll let Erica introduce them, because they're all her colleagues.
So our sales team, over here we have Rachel, senior consultant in our team. She's been to a lot of places. Bonnie, Larice, Will, and myself. And Peter is our sales manager. So all of our consultants have been to numerous places, and all specifically in the tailor-made department. So whether it's South Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Madagascar, Botswana, we've kind of got it covered within the team.
Super. Okay, I'll just point out as well that behind this team there's also some the tour coordinators. who will then assist this team to help with all the background bookings and administration things. So why a tailor-made holiday? I suppose various reasons. First of all, because you can put together something that's private, personalized, and flexible. So you don't have to sit to a you're not set to a fixed formula, but you can really change things around for your clients. So tailored to individual needs, and that can be the dates of travel, the particular interests of your clients, so whether they're interested in game or birding or whatever else it is, or culture. We can organize it to fit a specific budget and obviously client profile. So maybe an elderly couple might be quite different, looking for something quite different to a family, for example. Consultants with a specific destination knowledge. So certain of our consultants will have better knowledge of certain areas from first-hand experience, such as Erica here up in Zimbabwe. It's always great to speak with an expert on a certain destination when you're trying to organize a tailor-made holiday there. And these people will often have personal experience in the places that they're recommending, which again, it helps get the information across that's needed. And hopefully it helps with with setting the client's expectations. If a client has a certain needs that he's trying to get, with a good consultant, they can explain exactly what they're going to get and not set up a false expectation. And that quite often, if there is going to be a problem with a holiday such as this, is because clients are expecting something slightly different to what they get. Somebody who knows the places, who knows the accommodation, will help meet those expectations. So what can you as our agents expect from us? First of all, professional, courteous and knowledgeable consultants, and offering local advice and solutions. So whenever there's a problem, it's not, sorry, we can't do that, but rather, okay, this is going to be tricky, but how about this, that, or the other? So finding solutions around the problems. You can expect transparent and open communication, which means if there is a problem, we let you know about it. If your clients are looking for something and it's not there, we'd rather tell you about it straight up rather than try and sell the holiday and deal with the complaint later. You should be getting accurate information, so you can expect that. Considered and well-prepared quotes and itineraries, which are produced timelessly. So typically our turnaround time, we try and answer all the emails within 24 hours. So it might take a bit longer to get the actual proposal out, but you should have a reply within 24 hours. You will get competitive commission and commissionable rates as well as net rates. So effectively, if you're taking a package from our brochure, it'll be a commissionable rate, whereas a tailor-made package, where things have changed around a bit, you'll receive a net rate, which you can then mark up. We also try and give you the opportunity to upsell to your clients. So additional activities and experiences to offer. So if your client is looking at a certain itinerary, we'll quote it for you, but we'll also send you some options to put your clients so that you can upsell. We can offer some special and high-end proposals under our Jenman Select brand, and that's typically we're focusing a little bit more on experiential travel. So that's something to look for in Jenman Select and the more the kind of the 5-star market. We'll supply you with comprehensive travel documents, which you can then pass on to your clients. Along with that, the witty itineraries we've already talked about, the interactive online virtual itineraries. You will get peace of mind. So as I mentioned before, we've got 24-hour emergency phone, and that allows you to hopefully sleep well at night, knowing that if anything goes wrong on the ground here, we're here to pick up the call and help out. Just
to add to that, that phone is handled by us as the consultants, whether it's the guided groups consultants or the tailor-made. We're available literally 24/7, and we do pick up calls at 4 o'clock in the morning. So you can rest assured about clients in this particular instance throughout Zimbabwe, but throughout the rest of the countries as well.
Super. So we do take a collaborative approach to handling any potential issues that happen while on tour. So if something does happen, we will let you know. We'll discuss it with you as it's happening, so that you're completely informed and we can decide together what's the best solution for it. The final thing you can expect from us is responsible tourism affecting both social and environmental issues. And that brings me to my next slide, which is the Grow Africa Foundation, an in-house foundation that was started by Jenman African Safaris and by our sister company, Hideaways. And it was set up in order to make a positive impact on the environment, society, and economy in the places we travel to. So every booking that we receive from you guys, 50 Rand, $5 or €5 will go to the Grow Africa Foundation. So every booking effectively makes a difference. These can then be invested in different projects that we support. In Zimbabwe, we've got the Dingani Primary School, and the Dingani kind of community and primary school is our main focus. And we have a variety of projects that we support there. And we also support the CWF, so that's the Conservation and Wildlife Fund, and that's also Hwangi. So these are specifically Zimbabwe-focused projects. The first one being more humanitarian, educational, and the second one more conservation. So if ever you do have clients who might be interested in finding out a bit more, please let us know. If they want to get involved, or if yourselves want to get involved in any of our projects, there's some super sponsorship opportunities. Please do let us know. So what can you do for the Grow Africa Foundation? The main thing that we ask you is just help spread the word. So please let your clients know if they're traveling with us, let your clients know that a certain proportion of their booking fee will go to the Grow Africa Foundation. Please let them know of the website, growafricafoundation.org, and let them have a look around that. It will be super. Okay, this is a map of Zimbabwe, and I'm going to let the expert take over here and give you a quick introduction to the different highlights. So over to you, Erica.
So I think with this map, the biggest reason for it is just to kind of show the agents about the different areas which might actually come up in articles or something like that. Here is Hwangi National Park, Victoria Falls, as Pierce has mentioned already, Matusadana, Mana Pools. Those are kind of the biggest highlights for people who are wanting to come to Zimbabwe. There's the regions that they're wanting to see. Also including Matoba National Park, which is just outside of Bulawayo, for rhinos as well. But considering that we're highlighting Zimbabwe as a destination as well, Gonorrhoea down in the southeast of the country is also really good for wildlife. And then just so that everybody can see Harare, that is our capital, Bulawayo, second biggest city, and Victoria Falls. All three of them are international airports. And then if we do ever need to tailor packages where charter flights maybe, which is an option, they can all go in and out of those areas, including charter flights that would go to Matusadana, Mana Pools, as well as Gonorrhoea down in the south. So those are the main areas that people are wanting to see in Zimbabwe. Beautiful areas to visit for different reasons, different landscapes. So yeah, that's what the map was there for.
Excellent. Erica, having grown up in Zimbabwe, you must be pretty good at your animals.
I am rather.
Very good. Okay. So I'm hoping you're going to be able to tell me now, why is a kudu called a kudu?
Oh, I know why you're asking me that question. And I'll let you tell us.
So there's two male kudus who are walking along a ridge. This is a long time back. And one of them turned to the other and he gave him a little poke on the side, and he said, you see down in the valley below, you see those female kudus, they're looking pretty good. And the other kudu stops and he considers it for a moment, and he looks at his buddy there and he says, yeah, they could do. That's why he's called a kudu. Okay, so a quick introduction to Zimbabwe. What's changing in Zimbabwe? And I think Erica put it best when she said nothing and everything. So that was, I think it is a little bit of that. On the ground, maybe it seems like not a huge amount has changed, but actually there's a feeling of optimism which has come back in, which has been really good. And that's kind of changed the atmosphere around the country, and it makes it such a nice place to visit. On a practical point of view, there's no more paying at checkpoints. So before there was a problem with police checkpoints quite regularly along the road where sort of bribes would be looked for. And that's no longer happening anymore. So a lot more comfortable for clients and visitors to travel. There's new areas opening up to tourism. Eric just mentioned Gunner Zoo, and so that's just one of them. And there's also a wave of investment that's coming in, and you'll see probably in newsletters and things, new lodges, lodges are being reopened, redone the whole time. So there is a buzz about Zimbabwe at the moment, which is quite exciting. So we're suggesting we get in early, put it on your website, put out a few Zimbabwe kind of feelers and itineraries. And if people ask you why Zimbabwe versus one of the other Southern African countries, well, I think for me, the four principal reasons for going to Zimbabwe, one is the beautiful and varied scenery. And I think I can honestly say the most beautiful place I've ever been to in Africa is the Matopos. I absolutely love the sundowners at the top of those rocks. It's the most beautiful place for me, special place. And that's not the only beautiful place. There are plenty of others. So scenery-wise, Zimbabwe is definitely one of the tops certainly in Southern Africa. Unspoiled wilderness. Take a visit to Hwange National Park at the moment. You can get phenomenal game viewing. I was there just 3 weeks ago and we had really phenomenal game viewing. Hundreds and hundreds of elephants, herds of 400 plus buffalo coming past. We had lions pretty much every single day, all sorts of things, even saw a honey badger, which is pretty awesome. But the point there is that you get all of this without the crowds. So I think at our most busy sighting, there was one other vehicle there, but it's quite normal to travel for an hour or two without seeing another vehicle. It really is awesome. For me as well, it's the traditional Africa of past. So as you're driving along, you see those traditional villages, people living their, I suppose, traditional lives. A lot of them are subsistence farmers. So it's a very simple lifestyle, but there is something almost romantic about driving through this sort of scenery, this sort of countryside. Even though on the other hand, there is also maybe the slight feeling of guilt about it, or understanding that these are people who've got very little. But it is something that, with a bit of luck, will disappear in a certain way over time, the poverty, and with it, those traditions and traditional livings, the mud huts, all that kind of thing will probably go with it. The final thing, which is so important to Zimbabwe and which really makes it special, is the people. I don't know any other nation in Southern Africa that is so friendly, so open, so hospitable, tend to be well educated, that people you have a really interesting conversation with. It's something really is special. So I've put down resilience, hospitality, and charm. And hopefully that sums up a little bit what the Zimbabweans are all about. Some quick tips, I suppose. What currency to bring. So credit cards are accepted in most hotels and lodges, and a lot of the tourist attractions, but not always at the local shops. So I had to buy something the other day in Vic Falls. I couldn't use my credit card. I then tried US dollars and said, no, US dollars no longer legal tender. Okay, and that the exception there is for your visa on arrival, park entrance fees, and other official places. But as a rule of thumb, RTGs, the new kind of bond currency, is what needs to be used as currency. However, it's not readily available. So you might want to try and get hold of RTGs, but the reality is there's not many notes on the ground. It can be very difficult to get. So what we recommend is you travel with a credit card and US dollars. There's always a plan can be made if you need to make a purchase in a local market, but in the lodges and the main tourist areas, credit cards and dollars will be accepted. Do I need a visa? Most nationalities will require a visa traveling to Zimbabwe, and most of them will be able to get a visa on arrival at your port of entry. Typically, a single entry visa is $30 and a multiple entry can be $45. There are exceptions. I'm on an Irish passport and we get lumped with the English as well. We all get put in the same bracket and we get to pay a bit extra. Also, just to point out the difference between a single entry and a multiple entry, good idea to let your clients know before they travel. If they're in Vic Falls and they want to go across to do a Chobe visit, and then are going back to Vic Falls again, they will need a multiple entry visa, or else they can buy 2 single entry visas, but that's adding extra cost and administration.
Sorry, just to add, that would also apply if they're wanting to do the Devil's Pool visit. If they're wanting to go over onto the Zambian side and do that, even if it is just for the day, just as an activity, they are exiting Zimbabwe and then re-entering Zimbabwe. So they would need a multiple entry, or they will have to purchase another visa.
Okay, I just see a question pop up, or a message pop up there. If you don't mind, I'm going to leave all messages and questions until the end, and then we'll run through them all. On a safety point of view, I've always felt hugely comfortable there, and I think it's true to say there's very little violent crime. Certainly in the rural areas and the tourism areas, it's extremely safe. I've been to places where I've just left camera bags, things like that, on the vehicle, walked out in various national parks or picnic sites, never had any problems. People are friendly and open. So safety, people ask, is it a safe destination? Because they hear of the poverty, etc. Yes, I think I can honestly say it is a very safe destination. People shouldn't feel vulnerable by traveling there. So availability of fuel is the last sort of question I put up there, and supplies are erratic, similar with electricity. But the reason I put the fuel in there is some people ask us about self-drives. So we wouldn't necessarily recommend a self-drive, and one of the main reasons for that is the availability of fuel. There might be some today, but next week might not be available, and that can be quite tricky for a visitor. Okay, we're going to take an example now of an inquiry and just show you a little bit how we would handle an inquiry from the tailor-made team. So something comes in, an email comes in, I have a client that wants to go to Zimbabwe and Botswana. Can you help me with that request? So what are we actually looking for? In order to create a package, we want to get as much information about the client and his or her expectations as possible. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is try and make sure we have all the information we need. Then, using our experience, we're going to put together a tour package, and hopefully one that goes over and beyond what the client is expecting. So we're not just putting together a kind of a shopping list of things that you have asked for. We will also try and add things on, suggest improvements or options that we feel might be interesting to your clients. And then the whole thing will be built keeping the arrival times of flights in mind. Now, Vic Falls is typically the gateway for most people coming into to Zimbabwe. And just to let you know, there are Kenya Airways flights from Nairobi, Ethiopian from Addis Ababa, and both South African and BA or Comair come in from Joburg on a daily basis. So it really is pretty easy to get to and from. So number one on the list was getting to know more about the clients and their expectations. So in this one here, we've just put a quick of the sort of thing that we're looking for. Nicole, 27, and Chris, 29, are both from Germany and would like to spend their honeymoon in Botswana and Zimbabwe. They've got 10 days for the whole trip, including flights, and they would like to go on game drives as well as seeing the Victoria Falls. They have a budget of about $3,500 per person, excluding flights. Okay, so that gives us a good idea of what we're looking for before we can start. So I think there's one piece of information, critical piece of information missing, and see if Erica can pick it out. Travel dates. Okay, so I should have put in the travel dates. Sorry about that, I missed that one, but that's another sort of critical piece of information that we're looking for right from the start. We'll then put together a proposal and send it out to you. And this put together a Chobe, Victoria Falls and Hwange package. You'll see from the map, starting in, so obviously arriving into Vic Falls, across into Chobe National Park for a couple of days, back to the falls for 2 nights, across into Hwange, and back to the falls and out again. So it's an example of a basic tour, which we will then put to you, and typically that can also be chopped and changed. Once we've got the basic tour in place, we'll look at adding a few extras. So in this case, how about doing the historic bridge tour in Victoria Falls, or maybe a helicopter flip? How about sleeping a night in a sleep out deck near its own private waterhole, so a star bed sort of experience, or maybe a special dinner in the bush. We'll put forward a few different options, things that we know about that we think your clients might like. Obviously, we'll do the whole thing based around the flight times. And a typical one is a lot of the flights into the falls arrive about lunchtime. So quite often we'll maybe have an overnight in the falls beforehand or before the actual itinerary itself starts, and giving them enough time to see what they need to see, and make sure that they're within striking distance of the airport on the last day before flying out. So this is an example of a wet-to itinerary. Unfortunately, and this one here is not interactive, but you can get an idea of the layout. What you will do is you will click on the different elements, which will bring you deeper in. So you can have a look at the accommodation, click on the accommodation section, and go into an accommodation page, which gives you all the information you need. You can click on the itinerary, click into the destinations, find out what happens there. And importantly, where you see this, the Jenman Select little logo up the top, we can change that for your logo. So it's something you can forward to your clients, have their name on it on the front, and your branding on it. And it works as a really good marketing tool. Not only does it convert more inquiries into bookings, but they will then, more often than not, send this itinerary, because it's literally just a link, send it to their friends and relatives, who will then open it up and who will see your logo up here and look and see this awesome looking itinerary. So it helps with marketing. Another option might be the Rhino Track and Trail. So this is a package that we have in our brochure. Starts in Bulawayo. As Erica mentioned, Bulawayo is one of the cities you can fly into. And from here, we go down to Matopus and spend a couple of days in this beautiful reserve and see the rhino. Then transfer across brings you to Hwange National Park, the main national park in Zimbabwe, with stacks of big game and a real wilderness experience. And from there, you can continue on to the Vic Falls and have your last couple of days before flying out.
One thing that's brought out there on the screen about the special African touch adding on to the monopools, it's one of the features in our brochure for 2020 about add-ons. In Zimbabwe, if we're tailoring it, we can add on, after Victoria Falls, we can add on for them to go to monopools and completely tailor it. So these suggestions that we have in the brochure, they are just suggestions. So it's just to give the agents who are not that familiar with Zimbabwe as a destination some type of ideas as to what to offer this couple, Chris and his partner, I've forgotten her name, but it's just those kinds of ideas. And then in the brochure, as well as speaking to us as the consultants, we can suggest some really tailored add-ons, like doing a dinner on a train or doing a picnic on the side of the river, those types of things that you would really associate with tailoring any type of package. Those are what we can do.
Okay, the last itinerary that we've featured here is our highlights of Zimbabwe. And if we look at that, we're starting in Victoria Falls, so obviously one of the 7 wonders of the world, and really is on most people's kind of wish list when coming to Southern Africa. So it is a huge selling point. We then go up to Lake Kariba, largest man-made lake in Africa. Beautiful sunsets, phenomenal scenery, hippos, crocs, wildlife coming down to the banks. It is a pretty kind of special area. And as I say, the sunsets there are magnificent. Like, it's known for its sunsets and fishing as well, actually. From there on to Monopools. That's again is an air transfer. And there you got real wilderness. Again, you got both water and land game viewing, which is pretty special. Pretty secluded area, and I think it was where the David Attenborough's Wild Dog program was filmed. And then back to Hwange National Park. Again, the primary big game park in Zimbabwe, back to the Vic Falls and out again. So it is pretty special. Here we've put in that special African touch that Erica was talking about, the sleep out deck. That's something that can be hugely kind of romantic and very special, something that guests never forget. So when you want to put in something special, something like that works a treat. Okay, so that's the end of our brief webinar. Hopefully that's given you a good introduction to what we're about, who we are, what we're about, what we do, and a little bit about Zimbabwe. So I'm going to try and stop talking now and have a look at if anyone has any messages. Down the bottom right of your screen, you should see a little chat box. If you'd like to write any messages or questions in there, we'll do our best to answer them. Okay. Okay. So the first one, Casa Visa. You want to explain that?
Well, I see somebody asked, but then Tides Africa has basically answered it. The Casa Visa is between Zimbabwe and Zambia. So it's $50. It's available on entry in Victoria Falls, Livingston, Harare, and I would need to check it, but Lusaka as well. So it's not available at all ports of entry, but it's obviously applicable only in Zambia and Zimbabwe. It doesn't apply to Botswana or South Africa, but Botswana, you don't need to pay for a visa. But whereas if they were going to Zimbabwe and Zambia, generally everybody has to buy a roughly $30 visa.
Okay.
Karen might be telling us something different there.
Is there typing going on? Okay, any other questions? Are you transferring by road or air between Bulawayo, Hwange, and Vic Falls? Asked Karen. I think ultimately it's tailor-made. It can be your choice. All right, Erica?
Correct. Yeah, we tailor it into the package wherever it would be needed. We don't necessarily run those transfers individually as it is by itself. We would put it into a package, tailoring the package.
So if your clients would prefer a fly-in or limited on time, maybe we suggest a fly-in. Obviously, budget has something to do with it. But the likes of Mana Pools is typically fly-in because it's difficult to get to otherwise.
Karen is asking, are you transferring by road or air between? So obviously, if the itinerary called for it from Bulawayo to Hwange and then staying over in Hwange and then from Hwange onto the falls, that would be it. But if they were needing to go Bulawayo straight to the falls, then we'd reassess the itinerary really and see what would be suited for the clients.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Same one. Yeah.
For our own vehicles, it would also depend on the type of tour. If it's a completely privately guided tour and we've got our guide and driver with them, then the vehicle would stay with them for the whole time. But if it's literally just a transfer between the properties, then it will depend on the ground handler and vehicles as to what would be used.
So we try and find the most suitable vehicle and transfer for your clients. So it's not necessarily our own, but it could be. Big pleasure, Karen.
Can be used for day trips to Joburg, but not. Well, the Casa Visa, it applies to both countries. It applies to Zambia and it applies to Zimbabwe. So you can go in and between Zimbabwe and Zambia on the Casa Visa. If you're talking about Chobe, you're going into a different country. Chobe is part of Botswana, so you're not talking about the same countries in that instance. So you would still need a visa to enter back into Zimbabwe. If you have a Casa Visa, that is a valid visa. If you have a visa to enter Zimbabwe, that is also a valid visa if you have exited to go to Chobe. I hope that answers your question, Naria.
Just mentioned there, so as Erica said before, you don't need a visa or you don't need to pay for a visa to go into Botswana. So you can go into Botswana, stay overnight, and then going back again, you just need to make sure you've got a multiple entry visa for Zimbabwe, because you'll be leaving Vic Falls or Zimbabwe into Botswana, you'll be re-entering again. So I just need to mention that your client needs to know they need a multiple entry visa. Okay, I hope that's answered your question. Super. Okay, any other questions? Naria still is typing there. Great.
It's a pleasure, Samantha. Might have answered questions you didn't really ask.
So we're just waiting for a comment or a question to come up. We can see that Naria is typing. So the question is, as my clients are from Spain, I just need to know if they can go and come back, no overnight, and still keep the CASA valid.
Yes. So the CASA visa is valid. I think it's valid for, I would need to check it, but it's valid for 30 days for multiple entries between the two countries. So if they do exit Zimbabwe, they can then come back. With a normal Zimbabwe visit visa, once they exit, then they re-enter, they need to have a multiple entry visa to go back again. And even then, it might only actually be valid for 2 entries. Whereas with the CASA visa, it is more tourist focused. And so therefore, they can come and go a little bit more freely in terms of in that area between Chobe, Vic Falls, Livingston. It's trying to make it a bit more user friendly for tourists, whereas other visas are a bit more restrictive in terms of how many times they can enter into the country.
Super. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. I think that's the end of the questions. Thank you very much for sitting in and listening to us. I hope it's been of benefit. I hope you've learned something a bit about us and Zimbabwe. I encourage you to send us some inquiries. Any questions you have, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And if you need any additional information, please just send an email. Okay, so I think we're going to sign out at this point. From Erica and myself, thanks again, and we look forward to hearing from you shortly. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.